All right, Pelosi lighting up social media as queen of the clapback. A modern art installation demeans the first daughter, and 10-year-old Cub Scout taking a knee. Joining us with all the details, Raymond Arroyo, Fox News contributor, New York Times bestselling author of the upcoming book, almost out, Will Wilder, The Amulet of Power. Raymond, now Pelosi did her very best to steal the president's thunder last night, but it's the clapback that's getting all the attention. We're hitting the news that all of you really need to hear on Fox.
Well, but a lot of people didn't see this. Anyone who watched the State of the Union and is familiar with Speaker Pelosi's attempts to kind of steal the focus all evening realized that she's perfected the art of subtle contempt. Or maybe she just needs some Fixodent. Whatever the case, she was gnawing on something in her mouth all evening. Was it a Luden's, beef jerky? We may never know. Several times she pulled out what might have been a large menu, and she looked like she was trying to decide whether to have the foie gras or the pea soup. Or maybe she's reading Obamacare. We don't know yet.
Brown rice.
But now, Nancy Pelosi's mouth tick seems to be catching. This is Kamala Harris, Laura, reacting to the president's calls to put coyotes out of business at the border. Look at her mouth.
Oh, she's doing the same
thing. She's got the mouth tick. But nothing quite, I know, it's spreading, but nothing quite caught the attention of Democrats as this moment at the State of the Union. It's being called the Nancy clapback. Watch. It's kind of this, you see, it's this extended shoulders up. Now, they're reading a lot into this. Pelosi's daughter, Christine, took to Twitter to say, oh, yes, that clapback took me back to the teen years. She knows, and she knows that you know. And frankly, she's disappointed that you thought it would work. But here's a clap for you.
Why do we care about what Christine Pelosi's, walk down memory lane with mommy is all about?
I'll tell you what this is really about.
She was a scold then, and she's a scold now.
The Washington Post had an article on this, the exquisite shade of Nancy Pelosi's applaud. This is Democrats desperate for something good on a good night for the president. And let me tell you, the other point here, when Stacey Abrams is your mouthpiece, Nancy Pelosi clapping seems like Maria Callas in the last act of Tosca, okay? They're looking for help. They're looking for something they can, a bit of performance art they can latch on to.
By the way, I couldn't sleep last night. We were up so late during the show, and I kept thinking of that commercial.
What was it?
Ken French is the world-class clapper. 721 claps a minute.
With the clapper, I only need 2 claps.
Clap on, clap off.
Claps things on, claps things off.
So when they lose the majority of the House in 2020, she can be the new clap-on.
I also thought maybe it may not be anything conscious. She might have just been kind of osteoporosis or something, and she's just clapping. It might just be the way she claps. Anyway, Laura, there is a new exhibit, talking of performance art
exhibit,
that just opened in Washington. It's called Ivanka Vacuuming. That's right. An Ivanka Trump lookalike is in a gallery, and patrons are invited to throw crumbs of her, trash, that she will vacuum up. The gallery says, quote, Ivanka vacuuming is simultaneously a visual celebration of a contemporary feminine icon, a portrait of our own relationship to that figure, and a questioning of our complicity in her role-playing. You know what I discovered about this cultural DC, the group putting this on? Not only is it sexist and misogynist, this group is taxpayer funded. They got $120,000 in government funding in 2016. Imagine if they put Michelle Obama and people were encouraged to throw produce at her in a garden. Or, let's say, Hillary Clinton, where you throw email servers at her and she picks them up. That would be seen as what it is, sexist, misogynist, and inhuman. This stuff should not stand. This is really awful.
I never was big into performance art.
Me neither.
And
I came from an acting background. I don't like
it's always
the performance.
No. It's always like there's like a woman with a red dot on the wall, and she stares at it.
How is a woman vacuuming art? This is called domestic chores. We have to do this. We all do this.
It's idiot. And if they did it to Michelle, there'd be protests out front.
You're right.
Now, finally, a Cub Scout. Wow, my kids were in Cub Scouts. See him right there? He's a cutie. He took a knee at a city council meeting in North Carolina during the national anthem. Local media picked up on the story. The kid and his father explained the stunt this way.
What I do is took a knee against racial discrimination, which is basically what people are mean to other people of different colors.
When he did it, I was really surprised and also really proud of him.
The father discussed this with him beforehand.
Yeah, and
he says, and the city council said, I'm glad the kid exercised his conscience. This is not conscience. This is propaganda and political child abuse. I'm sorry.
Using
the kid,
kids like
he's
that.
not an NFL player. No reason for him to kneel. If he wants to protest, go help poor people. Or better yet, take your Cub Scout troop, go to the inner city and help people out there.
They do
if you're worried about racism.
Yeah, well, the thing is,
do more
I think
of it.
a lot of veterans I saw commenting
Oh, yeah.
on the
They were not happy.
A lot of the veterans, like I was in Eagle Scouts saying, our whole thing is patriotism.
Right.
Patriotism and service to others.
Yeah.
And look, Daddy had Daddy is like using a little pawn there.
I don't like
that. Sad. That's sad.
So are they closer to a deal on border security? No less than Nancy Pelosi hinting at that. Let's get a sense from James Clyburn of the beautiful state of South Carolina. He's number 3 in House leadership, the majority whip. Sir, very good to have you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me back.
All right, let me get a sense from you. Where do you think we stand? What was Nancy Pelosi talking about when she was sending these signals? What is she looking at?
Well, I don't know what signals Nancy may have sent, but I know what I've been saying from the beginning. We don't have anything against a wall so long as a smart wall. I've defined what a smart wall would be, one that would use drones to make it too high to get over, one that would use X-ray equipment to make it too wide to get around, and we use scanners to be so deep we can't burrow under it. That, to me, would be a smart wall. And having said that, I do believe that we have to put in infrastructure, reinforce the fencing that may be already in place, especially at the ports of entry. We need to upgrade these ports of entry and make them welcoming and equip them with the equipment they need, the technology that they need, because 90% of all the drugs coming into the country are coming through the ports of entry that are ill-staffed and people are ill-prepared.
But you don't have a problem, sir.
About.
I apologize. You don't have a problem with a wall per se.
Well, I'm against a concrete 30-foot high
So's the president.
monument.
He's moved on to steel and slats and intelligent, dividers and all that. So you're closer to the same page there, I guess.
Well, we may be.
Yeah.
I'm all for using the information that comes from the experts that hopefully we will employ to tell us what's the most effective way to secure our border. That's what we want to do. And that's what the president seems not to want to do. Why
I
should
don't know.
we
He
have...
has talked about that, but let me ask you, sir, just to be clear, there was a point when Nancy Pelosi had called a wall immoral. Do you believe that a wall is immoral?
She was talking about a 30-foot high concrete wall. If you recall, at the time she said that, that is what was on the table. The president has since taken that off of the table.
So when
as
she was talking about a wall being immoral, she was talking about a 30-foot concrete wall. I didn't get that at the time, but that's fine.
Well, that's what I got at the
Understood,
time. I don't know. Sure. Okay.
Now, she has also said to the Democrats who sit on this conference committee, sir, that, not to feel any pressure. I'm paraphrasing here. Whatever they come up with is fine, and then they'll vote accordingly. Is that the sentiment? Or any of the Democrats on the committee under a certain notion that if they dare vote for something akin to a wall or whatever you want to call it, she's going to slap him down, or maybe you might slap him down?
Nobody's going to slap anybody down. What we want these people to do is work in a bipartisan way to reach common ground. If they were to reach common ground in that committee, that conference committee, I don't see anybody on our side being against approving their work product.
Interesting.
But so long as there's common ground, why would we put a committee together, they work hard, come up with something they all can agree on, and then we sit here and slap them down? I don't think so.
Well, it's happened in the past, right? Not with just Democrats.
Sure.
It's happened with Republicans. That is the way things sometimes turn. But, Congressman, how do you think the president might or might not have fostered this process? Last night, he didn't mention declaring an emergency. He didn't mention the word shutdown. He did sort of put everything out there and not to come with a hard and fast, black and white, his way or the highway approach to this. What did you think of that?
Well, I thought what he did regarding that last night was very comforting, and I hope that he will stay there. But you know, he was there before and double-crossed everybody, including McConnell, and just walked away from what he had already agreed to. So let's just hope that he maintains that civility on this subject as we get to a conclusion on it.
You know, Congressman, much has been said about each party as kind of captive to the extremes within it, and whether it's the president and his base, or when it comes to Democrats, your party on the far left, that they're kind of calling the shots here and maybe holding Nancy Pelosi to this very tough stance. Now, that seems not to be the case as much if some of these signals you're talking about are true. But what do you think of that? Whether it's Congresswoman Cortez or some of these others, that they're kind of ruling the roost, are they?
Absolutely not. We have a caucus that is a Democratic caucus in more ways than one, big D and small d. And we are going to be Democratic in our approach to this. Nancy doesn't rule the caucus. The left wing of our party does not control the caucus. Right. We have a caucus that will function democratically in more ways than one.
Congressman, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what's going on in Virginia. You're probably well aware more than I that the governor, Ralph Northam, he's still in office. He's not resigning over these pictures that popped up from a yearbook back in '84. The lieutenant governor, Justin Fairfax, has been accused of sexual misconduct. He, too, not going anywhere. You know, and I could talk about the attorney general there in the state also acknowledging controversial pictures in his yearbook that date back to 1980. The fourth person in order in that state, if those three individuals resigned, is a Republican. And assuming he doesn't have such controversies, would you support the Speaker of the House of Delegates, Republican Kirk Cox, becoming the next governor of Virginia?
Well, I don't think we should get out in front of this process. I think that the process ought to be allowed to work. All these issues are serious issues, both regarding blackface, involving Me Too. These
but
things
should
are
any
serious.
One of those three, given some of these controversies, really even be in the offices they're in right now, if you had your way?
Look, the controversy is always going to be there.
Right.
I don't know how much you know about my background, but I spent almost 18 years supervising the investigation of these kinds of allegations at the state level in South Carolina. I did it for 4 governors, 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. So I know how these things work. We ought to let due process take its course, and then we ought to then act once that's done. Take all these allegations seriously, investigate them, and then make a decision afterwards. I would not get out in front of this and speculate on what should or should not be the case going forward.
But if it ended up with a Republican taking over the State House, how would you feel about that?
Well, I would not feel good about that. My goodness. I would not feel good about the governor having to leave the office. But I think it is something that he should consider doing for the party's sake. And I would not feel good if Justin Fairfax were not given due process as it relates to the charges regarding him. Or the allegations, I should call, regarding him. So I'm not going to feel good about any of this. But that's not what this is about, my getting to a good feeling place. I am all for the process working itself out. I have a massive amount of experience in this. Now, albeit I've been here for 26 years. And so that was the 18 years prior to my coming here. A lot of may have changed since then. Okay. But I don't believe due process has changed at all.
All right. You got a lot of years. I didn't know you're so old. No, kidding.
Well, I do.
All right. Mr. Majority Whip, very honor having you. Thank you, sir, very, very much. James Clyburn, the Democrat, beautiful state of South Carolina.